I was a manager at Walmart, and I remember one day one of our employees didn't show up for work, and he was our best employee. He never missed a day of work. So I got concerned and I decided to give him a call to see if everything was okay. So I dialed his home phone number and somebody answered the phone. I said hello. I discovered it was a child who answered the phone because she whispered hello. I said, hey sweetheart, is your father at home? She was still whispering and she said yes. I said, can you please hand your father the phone? I need to talk to him. She whispered and she said no. So I was trying to get an adult on the phone. So I said, is your mommy at home? For some reason, she's still whispering. She said yes. I said, can I talk to your mommy, please? Again, she whispered no. I know her parents wouldn't leave their child at home alone. So I asked the child, is there anyone else in your house? She whispered and she said yes, a policeman. So now I'm wondering, why is the police at my employee's house? I said, can I please speak to the police? The little girl whispered and she said, no, he's busy. I said, he's busy doing what? The little girl said, talking to my daddy and my mommy. Then all of a sudden I heard a helicopter in the background. I said, sweetheart, what is that noise? She whispered and she said, a helicopter. So now I'm really concerned. I started grabbing my things finna head to my employee's house. I asked the little girl, what is going on over there? She whispered and she said, the search team just got out of the helicopter. So at this point I'm getting frustrated. I said, what are they searching for? She got silent for a minute and then she started giggling and she whispered, me.
Why are school nurses so bad at their job? Like, there's no way they are actual nurses, because I remember one time at recess, me and a couple other kids were playing on the playground and one kid fell off the bars and his arm bent the wrong way. So you could literally see his bone sticking out of his arm and the kid started screaming. So me and another guy took him to the office. And when we got there, you know what the nurse did? She was like, okay, wait, let me get something for you. And she walks into the room next door and comes back with an ice pack and says, here, use this. What do you mean use this? My guy's bone was sticking out of his arm and you want him to put an ice pack on that? Not every injury can be solved with an ice pack, Gretchen. This man needs to have surgery. Call a real hospital. Doc McStuffins would be doing a better job than you at this point. And I'm sure that not all school nurses were like this, but at least at my school, the nurse would literally give an ice pack for every injury. Oh, you have a headache? Here's an ice pack. Oh, your stomach hurts? Here's an ice pack. Oh, your humerus is sticking out of your arm? Here's an ice pack.
I used to work at a zoo, and one time this gorilla died of old age. The problem was this was the only gorilla in the zoo because the zoo couldn't afford no more gorillas. Now this gorilla was the most popular animal in the zoo, and people would pay a lot of money just to see this gorilla, so the zoo couldn't go another day without having a gorilla. So the zoo owner came up to me and he asked me, did I want to earn an extra $200 a day to put on a gorilla costume until they can afford another gorilla. Now without no hesitation, I said yes. Pretty quickly, I became the most popular animal at that zoo and everybody wanted to come and see me. They couldn't believe that the zoo actually had a human-like gorilla. Now, about a few months passed and the attraction wore down. The owner kept pressuring me to find a way to get these people attention. So to get people's attention, I climbed up a tree and I started hanging on a tree branch upside down and I started swinging back and forth. But the problem was the tree branch was hanging over the lion's den. All of a sudden, there was this massive crowd of people and they kept cheering me on. So I kept swinging back and forth. But all of a sudden I start losing my grip and I get scared, so I start screaming for help. No one came to help and I fell right in the lion's den. All of a sudden this lion creeps up right behind me and he whispers, "Shut up before you get us all fired."
This is your warning to never make fun of old people. Because one time, I wanted to go to a Drake concert, so I asked my mom if she could buy me tickets, but she didn't know who Drake was. So I showed her his social media pages, and after I did, she was like, "Oh, so you know him? Well, why don't you just text him and ask him for tickets?" Oh yeah, mom, let me just send a text to my boy Drake real quick. Why didn't I think of that? But this terrified me because I realized one day, we're all gonna be like this. Soon, kids are gonna make fun of us for not knowing how to use technology and not knowing what certain words mean. Actually, it's already happening because for the past year, I've been trying to figure out what the word skibbity means, and I still don't know. I can't believe I just said that word out loud.
I'm going to tell you guys about the time I let my entire 4th grade class down. You think I'm exaggerating? You know, I stay up at night and I cringe at this. It's just, why did I do this? Honestly, I guarantee you none of them care. None of them remember. But I remember. It's honestly not even that big a deal. But it is to me. Okay, let's get into it. Picture this. Little 4th grade Joe excited to be going to school because it's December. And what does December mean? Christmas parties. That's one of the things that I miss about elementary school. All of the fun holiday parties. When I become a high school teacher, I promise to bring back the parties. Anyway, my teacher announced we were having a Christmas party. Everyone's like, yay! Okay, but we need people to bring snacks. She let kids volunteer what kind of snacks they could bring. Some kids said they could bring chips. Some kids said they could bring cookies. But there were no drinks. And then I suggested, what if we have hot chocolate? Everyone's like, yeah! My teacher's like, that's a great idea, Jozadak. Are you able to bring that? Yeah, I can bring hot chocolate. My entire class cheering. She was like, okay. Follow for part 2. Okay, so this is part 2 of me letting my class down in 4th grade. So you already know I was assigned the hot chocolate. Super excited, super happy. I had such a big job, big responsibility. And I can't stress this enough, I was the only one bringing the hot chocolate. So when I got home, I asked my mother, Ma, where's the hot chocolate? She goes, right there. So I grab it, and my little dumb said, this isn't good enough. It was the powdered hot chocolate. You know, the ones that come in the can? And I wanted the packets with the marshmallows. So I got really upset. This isn't the hot chocolate. This isn't the one I promised I'd bring. Go! And in my brain, I rationalized that if I couldn't bring the best hot chocolate, then I wouldn't bring any at all. I ended up bringing Chips Ahoy. But that's not the worst part. I walked in, my teacher had prepared a bunch of hot water in cups. It was this giant machine filled with boiling hot water, and she was stirring it. She looks at me walk in and go, hey, did you bring the hot chocolate? No, but I brought cookies. Joe!
So my cousin just had a baby, and her baby was born without ears, and she wanted the family to come to the hospital and see her baby. So I told her that I was going to wait until my little sister got out of school, and we was going to come up there and sit with her for a little while. But the thing about my little sister is she has no filter, and she don't care what comes out her mouth. So when she got out of school, I explained to her that our cousin just had her baby, and she wanted us to go see her baby. My sister was excited. I seen the big smile on her face. She went to her bedroom, and she sat her backpack down on her bed, and she started heading towards the front door. She noticed that I wasn't going out the front door with her. So she turned around and looked at me, and she said, well, what are you waiting for? I'm ready to go see the baby. I told her to sit down so I can explain something to her. So we sat down on the couch, and I told her that the baby was born without no ears. I could tell by the look on her face that she was trying to hold in her laugh. I pointed my finger in her face, and I said, look here, if you say anything about the baby's ears, when we get home, you are getting a spanking. She looked at me and she said, I promise I won't say anything. So I guess we had an understanding, and we went up to the hospital to see the baby. When we got there, my little sister took no time to ask our cousin could she hold the baby. I stood there looking at my little sister, staring her down to remind her of the agreement that we made before we left the house. So while my little sister is holding the baby, she said, what a lovely baby. He has lovely feet and little tiny hands. She said, and his skin is so smooth, but how is his eyesight? My cousin said the doctor said his eyesight is perfect. My little sister said that's good because he'd be if he needed glasses.
Get ready with me while I talk about how a creepy man followed me and my sisters into not 1, not 2, but 3 stores. So we were shopping for Christmas, and the first store we went into was Marshall's. No, actually it was TJ Maxx. And I was looking for a candle for my mom. I noticed a man, he's all by himself. He's probably in his 40s. He's just getting a little too close to me while I'm searching for my candles. I didn't really think anything of it until he started to go down all the aisles that I was in. I go down the makeup aisle, and this man follows me into the makeup aisle. Every aisle me and my sisters went, he was there the whole time. Now here's where it started to get even stranger. Every single time my sisters and I would go to check out and buy our stuff, that's when the man would leave. But he never bought anything. He'd see that we were leaving, so he would leave too. The next store we go into is Five Below to get candy. Getting candy, whatever. Turned around, there he is in the candy aisle. Now me and my sister specifically went to Five Below just for candy, so we didn't go anywhere else really. That's the only place he was in the store, just the candy aisle. So we're just trying to keep our distance, but he is just staying in the same spot that we are the entire time. So then we're like, all right guys, this is creepy. Let's not stay here much longer. Let's just check out and leave. What do you know? He sees that we're checking out and we're about to leave. He leaves the store. doesn't buy a single thing. I swear he knew what our car looked like because how else would he know where to go? We still had to go to Marshall's to get a few last things. And so as a joke, we were like, guys, like imagine we went to Marshall's and he was there. So we get to Marshall's, which by the way is in a different, like completely different like facility than TJ Maxx was. And we're shopping and stuff, you know. My little brother was with us. He's like, guys, like you're not gonna believe this, but there he is. I thought it was funny. I thought he was joking. I was like, haha, Will, like very funny. I turn around, there he is. I was like, no way. I was shocked. Why is he actually here right now? We stick together. There was 4 of us, me and my siblings, and we just did a little buddy system. I kept making eye contact with this man, so I swear he knew that we knew he was following us. We speedrun the rest of our shopping, and we're like, okay, let's get out of here right now. So we go to checkout, super quick. I'm keeping my eyes on this guy. And what do you know? He sees that we're leaving, and so he leaves before us. But when we're done checking out, we literally sprint to the car. I get in and spam lock the door. So we're driving home. Me and my other sister are looking to make sure that there's no car that's like behind us for too long. So we get home and nothing ended up happening. Needless to say, I did not sleep that night because I was very scared. Maybe we should have done something else in that situation, called the cops, but yeah, we did not do that. Maybe we should have, but moral of the story, always be aware of your surroundings because it's a crazy world out there.